Welcome to episode 3 of our journey along the historic Bozeman Trail, where we delve into the historical conflicts that unfolded along the trail and their profound impact on the eventual outcome. In episode 1, we provided the backdrop to the events that led to the development of the trail and the eventual conflict. In episode 2, we learned how John Bozeman established the trail along existing pathways and the failed negotiations to head off conflict. If you missed these episodes, please be sure to go back and enjoy them as well. As we venture north from the Platte River, we arrive here at Fort Reno, which was established by Brigadier General Patrick Connor during the 1865 Powder River expedition. In 1866, Colonel Henry Carrington's 18th Infantry took over the fort's garrison as part of the effort to protect travelers on the Bozeman Trail. Life at the fort was challenging, with shortages of food and supplies, harsh weather conditions, and constant skirmishes with Indian forces. The fort housed between 125 and 300 personnel, enduring these difficulties until its eventual abandonment under the terms of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. The tribes then burned it to the ground. Today you can visit the site where a monument and interpretive signage at the pullout provide insight into its historical significance. From there you can travel north along the 6-mile road paralleling the trail to reach Crazy Woman Crossing, the site of several conflicts. We have now reached Crazy Woman Creek Crossing right behind me. A popular spot for travelers to camp, water livestock, and cross the creek. However, it was also a target for tribal forces to attack. The most notable incident here was the Battle of Crazy Woman Creek on July 20th of 1866. Sioux and Cheyenne warriors attacked a small wagon train at the crossing. Lieutenant George M. Templeton and his detachment of 29 soldiers were escorting the train from Fort Reno to Fort Phil Kerney. When attacked by over 50 warriors, Lieutenant Daniels was killed and Templeton was wounded. The battle raged on until a wagon train led by Captain Thomas B. Burroughs arrived and repelled the attackers. The next morning they found Lieutenant Daniels' body impaled with 22 arrows. After the skirmish, both wagon trains returned to Fort Reno. Today you can visit the site and see interpretive signage and a memorial marker for Lieutenant Daniels at the pullout. On July 13, 1866, Colonel Henry Carrington established Fort Phil Kerney here at Piney Creek, located at the foot of the Bighorn Mountains. The fort played a significant role in the Fetterman and wagon box battles. At its peak, it housed up to 400 soldiers and civilian contractors and scouts like Jim Bridger and James Beckworth. Nearby, Pilot Knob, which you can see right through the front gate of the fort behind me, served as a lookout point where pickets signaled the fort of Indian attacks on wood trains and livestock herds. The Fort Phil Kerney State Historic Site and National Historic Landmark is managed by Wyoming State Parks and is open from May 1st to October 30th each year. Visitors can explore the interpretive trail within the rebuilt stockade walls, learn about life in a frontier fort at the Visitor Center, and browse the book and gift store operated by our Fort Phil Kerney Bozeman Trail Association. Now we stand at the Fetterman battlefield, about 3 miles from Fort Phil Kerney. This is where, on December 21st, 1866, Captain William Fetterman and his command of 78 infantry and cavalry soldiers, along with 2 civilian volunteers, fell into a trap set by tribal forces. Tribal decoys, including Crazy Horse, Sword, and American Horse of the Lakota, Big Nose and Wolf Left Hand of the Cheyenne, and Black Coal and Eaglehead of the Arapaho, lured Fetterman and his men over Lodge Trail Ridge into the ambush. The battle, known to American Indians as the Battle of the Hundred in the Hand, lasted only 40 minutes, resulting in the annihilation of Fetterman's entire force. Walk the interpretive trail when you visit the battle site to learn more about this devastating loss for the U.S. military and significant victory for tribal forces. Welcome to the Wagon Box Fight National Historic Landmark, located 5 miles northwest of Fort Phil Kerney. On August 2, 1867, Tribal forces attacked the woodcutters' camps and field headquarters at this location. The field headquarters, known as the Wagon Box Corral, was a 14-wagon box stockade garrisoned by soldiers and civilians. The attackers, led by the Minikoju Lakota leader High Backbone, along with Crazy Horse of the Oglala Lakota and Little Wolf of the Cheyenne, were repelled thanks to the soldiers' newly acquired breech-loading rifles. The battle resulted in casualties on both sides and demonstrated the increased capacity of the U.S. military. Walk the interpretive trail when you visit the battle site to learn more about this significant engagement. The conflicts along the Bozeman Trail and the eventual victory for the Northern Plains tribes played a significant role in shaping the outcome of the Fort Laramie Treaty of 1868. Forts Reno, Phil Kerney, and C.F. Smith were abandoned. Use of the Bozeman Trail was discontinued until the U.S. military campaign of 1876 and the battles of the Rosebud and the Little Bighorn. The clashes between the U.S. Army and the Northern Plains tribes, known as the Indian Wars, endured for over a decade. These confrontations arose from the clash between two societies over occupation of the Northern Plains. The Bozeman Trail conflict served as a prelude to a larger cultural clash leading to aggressive resistance from the native people, and eventually culminating in their conquest and dispossession by the United States government. This transformation had profound effects and lasting effects on the native way of life. To learn more about the history of the Bozeman Trail and the surrounding areas, visit our museums, designated historic sites, and national historic landmarks along the trail corridor in Montana and Wyoming. You can also explore the Bozeman Trail Travel Guide on the Fort Phil Kerney Bozeman Trail Association website at fortphilkearney.com. Get out and discover your trail with the Oregon-California Trails Association.